Hey guys, and welcome back. We are talking horror films now. So as you can see, it's me and James tonight. How are you, mate?
Good. How are you, Gary?
Not too bad at all. Not too bad at all. We thought we would just have a bit of a fun one tonight. So we're going to talk about our favourite horror films and how they affected us. So would
Yeah.
you like to kick things off, my friend?
Sure. So my first experience with horror movies was I was 10 years old, so that's 42 years ago, and it was The Evil Dead with Bruce Campbell. And while I started watching it was okay to start off with, but then what really got me when there was a scene that cut to it. Oh, sorry. The Evil Dead was they found the Book of the Dead. They read from it. They opened it. They released whatever demons were in the book. So certain things happen throughout the film to different people. There's a scene where a lady gets raped by a tree, because that
Yeah.
happens. And then
Everybody knows
there's a
that
lady.
scene.
She's sitting with her legs crossed, rocking backwards and forwards, going, "We're going to get you. No one's going to know." And then she does this really creepy laugh. So that did me for the movie, being that I was only 10 years old.
Yeah.
And I actually wasn't a fan of horror movies till I hit about 20.
Yeah.
And then I started back watching horror movies again. But my all-time favorite horror movies at the moment are all the ones based on true stories,
Okay. Well,
especially the ones where you're watching and you don't realize they're based on true stories until
yeah.
the end.
Yeah, oh, there's a few of those around. No, me, oh God, I'm not even going to name the decade, but let's just say Mom and Dad were one of the first in town to bring home a VCR. And this was back
Yeah,
in the days when you would go down to the local news agency and they had the big folders at the front that had all the video covers in them. And
yeah, I remember that.
you flick through them based on the genre that you were looking for, and then you paid your. I mean, this was back in England. You paid your £2 or whatever it was, and then you got to take it home overnight. Well, me and my mate, we used to save all of our pocket money up, and we'd have enough money between us to get a video, get a packet of lollies each, and a cool drink or something like that each. And you started off watching the normal sort of comedies and things like that because we were very innocent kids, and we decided to start watching a couple of scary films, and they kind of, I think the very first one I got in it, it's not based on a true story, but it was called Zombie Flesh Eaters. And
Yeah,
I mean, they're really bad, like D-grade films, But there was this one scene in this where they were hiding in the bathroom on this little Caribbean island or something like that. And this hand comes smashing through and grabs him by the top of the hair and starts pulling him back. But when he smashed through, there's this big spiky bit of wood, and the zombie pulls his head back, so it goes right through his eye. And that wasn't really scary. Well, it did. It did sort of leave a reaction. But after that, we started getting a few scary films, and then let's set the scene. I had a TV in my bedroom, but it was a black and white TV as well. So, and it had a tiny little screen about that bloody big.
a 14-inch. I remember those.
Yes. And funny enough, the one film that really freaked me out more than any others was a film called The Snow Beast. It was about the Yeti, and it was coming down from the hills in this ski resort, and it was hitting people, and you never saw it all the way through the film. So it really built. It would look at you. You would see the people there as if you were looking through its eyes, like hiding from behind trees, and they built all the suspense up like that. And it wasn't until the last 4 or 5 minutes of the film that you actually saw it. And even then, it was like a quick flash, And yeah, it was a really crap quality film, but they got it right to build the tension up. And I think that's a lot to do with horror films, is building up the tension. And then obviously in this day and age, with what's going on now, horror films are really starting to take it to the next level. So that was my
Yeah,
start to horror films anyway.
yeah. So trying to keep that suspense build, because I've watched plenty of horror movies where you can go, "That's going to happen," and it does, and that's going to happen. And there's other movies out there that are like, "Oh my god, what was that?" It's
Yeah.
like that give you that scare, which is what you want from a horror movie. You don't want to be sitting there going, "Okay, I'm going to see that. It's going to happen. This is going to happen." You
Yeah.
know, the lady's running away. She's going to trip over, and guess what? She trips over because that
Ye-
doesn't really build the suspense. It's just part of the genre, right?
Yeah.
So, and the funny thing is, I love all genres of horror movies now, but the only genre I could not watch was zombie movies, and I don't know why. I think I watched one zombie movie, um, and it wasn't George R. Romero's The Living Dead. It was another Living Dead one, but they were in like a bunker, and do you remember that one?
No.
Uh,
I've
anyway,
probably
so that's
seen
when I
it, but I
watched it,
don't remember it.
and they ripped this guy in half, and was like, "That's it, I'm done with zombie movies." Up until probably about 15 years ago, I thought I got to get over my thing of zombie movies because also used to have recurring dreams that zombies would come and chase me and attack me. I guess that's why I didn't like them so much. Um, but then I just thought I got to get over it. So what I did, I just downloaded as many zombie movies as I could and just desensitized myself to them. And now I actually don't mind the genre either.
Oh,
Was
look.
there anything you didn't like in particular?
No, I would. I don't like the. Uh, I know what you did last summer and all of those type of slasher type movies. I'm not into the slasher
Yep.
movies. I like a proper horror. No, I don't mind what is the horrific part about it, but I don't like the cut 'em up slasher films because that's too close to. There's a lot of people out there that are very capable of that, so that's just too close to reality. Whereas zombies, I guess if you go back to like Nostradamus and one of the things he said, the dead will walk the earth. Now, if he was genuinely looking at the future like he is now, he's describing all the crackheads and things like that that are walking around. Some of them really do look like zombies the way they walk around.
They
But
do.
I mean, God, I watched this really crap film not long ago where the zombie apocalypse had happened, but they beat it. And the only zombies that were left alive, I don't know if alive is the word for it, were all kept on this island. And people used to pay money to go over to a holiday and basically shoot the zombies and things like that.
The movie's called Resort, and they use a
It,
Z instead of the S.
that's
I've
the
seen
one.
that movie
It
too.
was so funny. It's so funny. I mean, some zombie shows now are becoming more a comedy. I mean, what the Cub Scouts Guide to the Zombie Apocalypse. Have you ever seen that?
Yep. I think I started watching it, but the wife wasn't impressed with it, so we turned it off.
Oh, that's got the funniest scene from any zombie film I've ever seen in my life. And you'll know the one that I'm talking about where they end up getting stuck in the upstairs bedroom and they're climbing out the window.
Yeah.
And as they're starting to fall back, the zombie's there, but it's this old man zombie that's got his junk hanging out. So he ends up grabbing it just to stop himself from falling flat. And he's got this zombie held by this tallywhanker, and trying to hold himself up. And he just starts stretching and stretching and stretching until it eventually snaps off and he hits the trampoline, bounces over the fence, and he's got a zombie willy in his hand.
Oh my
God, that was funny. God, I laughed so hard at that, watching that bloody scene. I mean, the film was crap, but you know what I mean? And then
Yeah, there's some things that are worth a laugh.
oh yeah, I mean, I grew up in the time when zombie films were they were all slow zombies. You could outrun them. It's just if you were outnumbered, you were in the crap. And then World War Z happened, and now zombies are basically parkour specialists. That scares me.
Yeah,
If that's
definitely.
how that happened, I mean, and then like Zombieland, that was hilarious.
Have you seen Zombieland 2?
Yeah,
That's even funnier. That's even funnier.
yeah.
You don't think so?
I don't know. I still like the first one better, but
The
that.
first are always the best, but as far as sequels go, I thought that was pretty.
But then you get into, I mean, you mentioned Evil Dead and things like that. You're starting to get into more mystical type stuff. And like I said, I saw a UFO when I was 7 years old, and that's what got me started on the paranormal and stuff. Now, undoubtedly, once you get stuck into that, you get stuck into ghosts and all of that sort of thing. So when I would stay over at my nana's place on a weekend, if she was babysitting for us when we were younger, one of the things I do remember is that they had the big TV, but later at night, all the ghost films and things like that came on.
Yep.
And she'd say, "Come on, Gary, you can watch some ghost films with us." So I'd sit down and watch these old black and white ghost movies and things like that. And just, I mean, black and white in its own right makes them creepier anyway. And then she'd always bring out a toffees and big box of Thornton's toffees from England. So we'd be eating toffee in the middle of the night, which you should not be doing as a kid, and watching these scary films. And they were very special times for me, you know. It's not very often you sit there watching horror films with your nan.
No, definitely
But
not.
I think some of the shows that you see these days, for me, a lot of the movies these days, they take away from the suspense and things like that by just throwing in special effects and blood and gore and stuff. And I'm not into that. I mean, if there's a reason behind it to get the story moving along, I'm fine. But just not for the sake of cutting somebody's head off and stuff like that. It's got to be done well, you know, not just throw every special effect in that you possibly can.
For example, House of 13 Ghosts.
I haven't actually seen that one.
I mean, that's just total
Rubbish.
like special effects and heads getting cut off, and like there is a story behind it, but I think they lose the story over the gore scenes. You know,
Yeah.
it's like you stop realizing what the story's about, and you're going for the gore, you're going for the action scenes and things like that. So yeah, I get what you're saying there.
Yeah.
So I'm going to head back to the zombie theme if you finish.
Yeah, I'm done with the zombie bit.
So I don't. Have you seen the Walking Dead series?
Yes.
All right. So
Which one? There's a few of them.
No. So the Walking Dead, the original series.
The original
right?
Walking Dead. Yep.
Yeah. So in the first 6 episodes, right?
That's the first season. Yeah.
And even in the sort of the beginning of the second season, when you look at the zombies, some of them seem to have some form of intelligence to them. So there's a scene where Rick's in the tank and he looks down at one of the zombies, and the zombie looks back at him and has like an intelligence to it, right? So that theme sort of carries on, right? There's a little bit of intelligence, although they're still animals, right? Well, animalistic urges going to eat people. But then they sort of move away from that, and then the zombies just become mindless, you know, want to kill your eaters. I wonder what direction they were actually going to go, and then where they ended up going. Were they wanting to go more like the comics? Because even at the end of the Walking Dead series, they start becoming intelligent again because they start opening doors and climbing. So why have they gone from real intelligent zombies, right, through to dumb zombies, back to being semi-intelligent zombies? You know, could they have gone? Could they have gone somewhere down a different track? Maybe it wouldn't have lasted as long because it wouldn't have been as popular.
I don't know.
That's why
I actually think they kind of went a bit too long with that one.
Yeah.
You know, because Rick wakes up in the hospital and then the zombie apocalypse has happened. Now, they kind of remedied that by going to Fear the Walking Dead, which actually I enjoyed more initially because you were there at the start of the zombie apocalypse, and you can understand, like, when there's that scene, and I think it's in the first or the second episode, where the zombie walks out into the street and the police are trying to telling it to stop. They think it's just a drug addict.
Yeah,
because
that's right.
Because obviously they've just been turned, so they're fresh. They're not all skeletal and stuff like that. They're still freshies. And that sort of, you saw the decline of
Society,
humanity
really.
and society, yeah. And I enjoyed that because watching it, I was thinking to myself, all right, the part where they sort of fenced off safe zones and things like that, I could see the military trying to do if it was a real thing. And that's what I enjoyed about it, is the fact that they looked at it from a more realistic standpoint. But again, once they get so far in, it just turns to a free for all, and that's when they lose context of how the whole thing's supposed to go.
Yeah, 100% agree with that. Yeah. So it just seems that they wanted to do something different, but then beeline for the easy gore keep it, happening and
Yeah.
people entertained by watching it rather than take it down. Well, are they becoming intelligent zombies where they can, maybe come back from being dead? But yeah, would have been interesting to see if they went that way. But then the show probably wouldn't have lasted as long as it did. Of the 11 seasons,
Yeah.
and there's 7 or 8 seasons of Fear the Walking Dead. Now they've got 4 different offshoots coming from The Walking Dead.
Yeah.
So it's just opened up a whole thing for everyone
Yeah.
uh,
Yeah.
from there.
But no, films for me now, I like the ones where you start getting creeped out by something you don't understand while you're getting creeped out, and what they use infrasound and things like that. Really low frequency tones that react with your body and get you anxious and things like that. So you're starting to, and
Yeah,
then it builds you up and you don't know why. Then creepy things happen and it takes you to the next level. So I like that where they're really putting thought behind it. Whereas I don't like ones where they just go slash blood. It's
yeah,
just stupid. I don't like those ones. Like the
yeah. But
Saw movies. I didn't like any of the Saw movies.
no, they were just blood and gore. I've watched all the Saw movies, and the last one that was out, can't remember the name off the top of my head, but it sort of ties them all in and tells you how it went. But it's still just shock gore
Yeah,
movies, right? Um,
no. I mean
so
the one that really kicked most horror films off for everybody was The Exorcist. And
yes,
that is based on a real case. The case of it was actually a boy. The original case was about a boy,
yep,
and that that had the shock horror. I mean, they had cutting edge effects that were so far advanced back when it was made, which they just look ridiculous now.
yeah,
What I don't like is they're actually getting some of these classics now and they're remaking them. With today's technology, you could do such a good job of it, but they half-ass it as far as I'm concerned. Some of the effects are good, but the storytelling drops off because they figured, the special effects are part of the show. You know what I mean? I still think good storytelling and building suspense and everything like that is way better than just, like I said, just watching a few special effects, which are supposed to elicit the same kind of response. It just doesn't work the same.
Oh,
Uh,
you talk about that infrasound, right? So I'm just going to sidetrack. Look at Star Wars, right? When before Darth Vader even entered the room, you would hear a droning, like and then after a while, you knew that Darth Vader was around, right?
yeah.
And that's that real builds up that like excitement. If you can do that in horror movies, which some do, you can get real sucked into it, real drawn into it,
Mm,
and then whatever happens, like, oh my god, that's so super scary. I didn't
yeah.
expect to see that. So they need to do more, definitely more with infrasound, and I think they worked out in some movies that they have like a heartbeat to the sound in the background,
Yeah.
which they can speed your heart up by listening to that
Mm-hmm.
heartbeat going, which builds up your anxieties and your tension, and you're going, oh yeah, this is really good. You're getting into the movie,
Yeah. And
so they need to work on that more.
what makes it worse as well, there's nothing worse than watching a horror film with Lynn, because I've got an 85-inch TV on the wall, and I've got an absolutely kick-ass sound system with, I think it's 9-channel surround
Oh
sound,
wow,
and it's got this massive subby that things start shaking when I turn it up and stuff. But quite often, I think sound is underestimated in films. Like we'll be watching shows and you'll hear the wind blow or you'll hear it rain. I go, "Is it raining outside?" And they go, "No, it's just the TV. This comes through the speakers at the back, because these speakers that I've got at the back, they've got speakers that go up to the top, speakers that
yeah,
go out to the side, and speakers that go that way, and they all interact with each other. So if a helicopter comes over, it's not like the old school where you just hear that sort of it's coming through you like that. No, you hear it going over the top and around the sides, and
oh my god. So you
it's
don't just hear the transition; you hear that over the roof.
you
And
hear
it's
it all, yeah. And when you watch a creepy film with the infrasound with this subby that I've got, I'm talking about, ooh, it's sound is so good in a horror film, or
yeah, yeah,
it should be a very important part, and it's very underutilized in a lot of the gory type stuff. But
Yeah.
I like the well, we talked about this a while ago. There's a show in the 80s, a film in the 80s called The Entity, which is based on a true life story of a family that were being harassed by a poltergeist type entity. And it's been documented. Police actually saw it happening, the activity happening and stuff like that. Sorry, just got a bit of a hickey up thing going on. And then a university got involved and they tried to do these experiments on trying to capture this entity. And that was I think the first real one, which was based on a true story that I watched, because I didn't watch The Exorcist for quite some time. And then I think from that, what was the next one that I watched after that, which really got me? I can't think for the life of me now which was the next one after that, but that one was really good. And then you get into like The Exorcism of Emily Rose, which is the true life Annalise Michael story. You know, they're the ones that I like because there's actual documentation based around them. You know, I mean, I didn't even watch the Amityville Horror. You know, I didn't watch. I've seen some of the remakes and, you know,
Average. And that's a problem when they go to remakes. They lose something. I don't know if it doesn't translate well into the modern genre, or they try and make it too flashy, you know. But
yeah,
yeah, the original horrors are always the best. Like they remade The Evil Dead. I think I watched half of the remake and no, don't want to watch that anymore. But then I recently watched Evil Dead Rise, which is the second book of the Dead. All right, they talk about that. And that was a totally different style of horror. It was in a building. It was in a popular city. You know, it was just really good the way they explained that the house was built um, on an old church where they had this book and it was sealed away for a reason. You
yeah.
know, it's had a really good story to it and how they got this book and all that. So that was really good. It didn't feel like it wasn't a remake. It didn't feel like a remake, or they were trying to rehash or try and do something the same. It was totally different.
I'll tell
So
you an experience, and we've only got a few minutes left actually, but one of the creepiest film experiences, I should say. Now, anybody watching this from the United Kingdom will know what I'm talking about when I talk about going for a holiday on the Norfolk Broads. Now, what that is Norfolk down the southeast side of England, so up near that big humpy bit. It's a whole vast network of canals and lakes and things like that. And you go down there and you have a boat for the week. So you don't have a car, you just putter along from pub to pub or go shopping, and you go to these different towns and you do your thing. Now, on an evening, you have to moor up somewhere because obviously you can't keep going through the night. And quite often all the moorings near like the big, where the where the pubs are and things like that, they're fully themed. So what they do is they give you a couple of star pickets, and what they do is you have to jump off onto the side, hammer these star pickets into the ground, and then you moor off to that, and then you pick them up in the morning, and then you go off doing your thing. Now, this one night, Mum and Dad had gone to bed, and I was 12 years old, I think, and it was just me up because my brother, he'd gone to bed as well. And again, we were moored up. It was dark. Didn't know where we were. There were no cars or anything like that around because it was in the middle of this marshlands and lakelands and stuff like that. And we were just under like this weeping willow tree, and it was coming down. And as the boat was rocking and the wind was blowing, it's on the roof of the boat, which was creepy if it wasn't, if you didn't know any different. And I watched the original film, The Omen,
oh,
on a little black and white portable. The boat was rocking, and this was my first real delve into like the demonic type shows, and Jason, and no, it's Damien, not Jason. That's a different set of films.
Yeah, different.
Yeah, and that creeped the absolute crap out of me. When that finished, I think I was traumatized for a couple of days after that.
You already said the ambience, didn't you?
It was all preset because it was like a not stormy night, but it was a blustery, windy night. But when it would stop, it was dead silence, absolute dead silence, and it was like, and then you'd hear that, oh crap, no, that
You gonna give yourself the chills?
I did. I did. I was a 12-year-old, and it scared the absolute crap out of me. So I think we've got time for one more. If you want to take one more.
All right, so let's hit the Conjuring series, right?
Yep.
Question for you: why do you think they changed Annabelle from Raggedy Ann doll to a porcelain, scary face-looking doll?
I think it was. I don't know, but I would say more to make it more creepy than what it actually was.
Exactly, because if you look at so I've seen photos of the real Annabelle,
Yeah.
or what they call the real Annabelle, and it's a Raggedy Ann doll.
Yes.
All right, I don't know how else to explain it, but
No.
everyone
I
who
know the
knows
one.
what a Raggedy Ann doll will know what it is.
Yep.
They've changed it to a creepy porcelain doll. I think it's just for creep out purposes. Because would a Raggedy Ann doll creep you out?
No.
But
Well,
the doll
some do.
that doll they use, the doll they use for Annabelle. Oh my god, that's creepy, right?
Yeah.
So it's just weird that they felt it necessary to portray her or portray the Annabelle doll as a creepy porcelain doll rather than keep it true, which may or may not have been a good selling point for the movie.
No, I think they knocked it on the head in relation to sellability and creep factor and stuff like that. My mum used to actually make those porcelain dolls, but
Oh wow.
she made one for my ex-wife. Well, she made one and she gave it to my ex-wife that actually had three heads. Not three heads, three faces.
Okay.
It had a bonnet on it, and then it had a smiley face, and you could sort of slide it around, and then it had a crying face, and then you slide it around again, and it was a sleeping face. And I shit you not, I would wake up some mornings and the face was different to when I went to bed.
Oh.
Now, I know it wasn't a haunted doll because Mum made it, but as soon as you start talking dolls, man, dolls creep me out. They really do. I don't know why. There was one night when my daughter came in, she said, "Oh, there's something making a noise." I was half asleep. Oh, there's a whole other story. I'll tell you about that, even if we have to run over a couple of minutes. But I went in there and I go, "What? I can't hear anything." And then, bugger me dead, I heard a voice coming from the bottom of a cupboard. And I went, "What?" So I'm going through it, emptying all these dolls out, and right at the bottom was a doll that was talking. And it was as creepy as anything. So here's me, half asleep, trying to pull the bloody pants off the back of this thing to get into the back to where the little voice box thing is in them.
Yep.
To try and turn it off. It was turned off and it was still talking.
Holy crap.
No, next thing I know, having to find a micro screwdriver set, still half asleep, to take the battery out. It wasn't until I got the battery out of it that it stopped talking. And that creeped me out.
That's creepy.
Now, to finish out on, I'll tell you what, have you seen the new version of Dawn of the Dead? I think it's the Dawn of the Dead, the one where they're at the shopping centre.
Yep.
That's based off an original one, which is part of the Zombie Flesh Eater series. It was Zombie Flesh Eaters, Dawn of the Dead, and there was a couple of others in that series back then. But when this one was happening, I don't know if you remember at the start, when she came back home from the hospital and she was with her boyfriend or her husband or whatever it was, there was a little blonde girl that was roller skating out on the road. She had the long blonde hair and everything.
Yep.
And then, obviously, that little girl was the first zombie that she had interactions with. She was very similar looking to my daughter when she was little. Long blonde hair. And it wasn't long after I'd watched that. So, I got my 3 kids and I was happily sleeping and I'm woken up by this little shaky sort of thing, and then I kind of half look up. My daughter's, she's already put her dressing gown on, so she'd look just like it. Almost like the little girl in the first episode of The Walking Dead as well. I
Oh
mean,
no.
hair all down over her face, and she just put her hand out like that. And you know when you're half asleep and you're not fully coherent?
Yep.
I don't know how I went from totally asleep, lying flat on my back, to doing some sort of an Olympic hurdle straight over to the other side of the bed and just about took myself out going out the door. I absolutely shat bricks, I tell you. And she got all upset seeing me come flying across and didn't know what was going on. It's all right, you know. And then she turned around and she goes, because she was only little, she goes, there's a tiger growling in my bedroom. Okay, come on, sweetheart. So we go in and trying to put her back to bed, and I'm like, I can't hear anything. And then you hear this noise. And she goes, there it is. Bless her cotton little socks. It was her tummy rumbling.
Oh.
And she was only little, and she was doing this, you know, and but yeah, that's the
Meanwhile,
power.
your heart's going a mile a minute.
Yeah, and the rest. That's the power that a good horror film can do. It can affect you for days afterwards, whereas some of these slasher films, you walk out and it's they're not horror films. They're not.
Gore for gore's sake.
Yeah, that's it. Anyway, we're going to have to call it. So have you got any closing little comments before we go?
No, just keep watching those horror movies. I'm sure they'll get better.
I actually think we should go for an hour now because there's so many more we can talk about, but I think we better call it anyway. So, yeah, if you guys can think of any good horror films that you want to talk about or any other subjects, please let us know in the comments down underneath this thing. And like, subscribe, all the rest of it. And we will see you guys next week. See you, mate.
See you later.